us in and then
KC Laboratory, sponsored by Emprise Bank.
Yo, what is up, everybody? I know that the KC Lab was live earlier tonight, but the Kansas City Chiefs make a move, adding safety Justin Reid from the Houston Texans. It is a 3-year, $31.5 million deal.
Okay.
That includes $20 million guaranteed. That is the move. That is the big move for day one of legal tampering for the Chiefs. My name is Craig Stout. I'm with Matt Lane. This is sponsored by Emprise Bank. I think we hit all that at the top. Maddie, what's your initial reaction signing Justin Reid today?
Listen, it's 4 years too late, but they got there. Okay, they did it. I don't at the time I wasn't working for it anywhere covering the Chiefs yet. I was just kind of a fan talking about it on message boards and stuff. But Justin Reid was one of my guys, and that what would have been the 2018 draft class. He was one of my guys coming out then, though. Like, he was a guy that I had a first round grade on. I was a huge fan of. Everybody else was flipping their lid about Jesse Bates. And I'm like, yeah, he's good. I like Justin Reid more. I thought he was more versatile coming out. Now, it's no question who's had a better NFL career up until this point. But if people remember back, Justin Reid had an awesome start to his career. His rookie season, his second year were great. He was right up there with Bates in terms of how good he was. As that Houston Texans defense kind of took a tumble, so was his play. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. He has probably coming off his worst year right now, and that might play a role in how the Chiefs got him at a 25-year-old safety at this price. But you go back and look at when he's been at his best, when those Texans defense had a little bit more talent. Hey, there's not a lot that Justin Reid can't do on the football field. Like, he's a versatile guy.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part about this move is the versatility side of this. Justin Reid is not necessarily exclusively a deep safety. He's not exclusively a box safety. He does everything. He's kind of a very well-rounded guy. And this isn't like a jack of all trades, master of none thing. When he was coming out in the draft, part of the reason why he was getting a lot of round one, early round two grades is because he was so scheme versatile. He was going to be able to line up in anybody's scheme, and he was going to do whatever was asked of him well. Like Matty said there, Houston Texans, when he was at the start of his career, they were playing with the lead a lot, which the Chiefs are likely to do here, a lot of throwing downs. He was a very impactful player. As their fortune started to turn and as that defense started to suffer, I mean, you can go and look at the depth chart for the Houston Texans defense from last year, and oh my goodness, it's tragic. It's awful. That team was bad, really, really bad. So it's a little bit understandable that Justin Reid had a down year last year as a free agent. Probably results, like Maddie said, in the fact that he was available, that they didn't try and keep him. But yeah, a young guy, a cornerstone. The part that I think matters the most, and we have stressed this so much when we have been talking about Tyrann Mathieu, which we'll get to here in a little bit, intelligence. Justin Reid is an incredibly smart safety. He is incredibly good at organizing on the back end, making sure everybody stays on the same page. He's a little bit of a field general type of safety. We know how much Spagnuolo loves guys like that. We know how much that is important to him to have on his defense, because we've watched this defense with Tyrann Mathieu for the past 3 years. Justin Reid, not saying he's going to be able to replicate everything Tyrann Mathieu does, but is another highly intelligent guy that can line up and be able to do some of the things that were asked of Tyrann Mathieu. Right, Maddie?
Yeah, and I think that's a key point is like so I'll talk about it more later, but like it is a little, as much as I love Justin Reid, it is a little painful me to see amount of money being spent being the first thing is to a safety and a very strong safety class. Like if I'm looking at the big picture, building it out, I would almost rather spend the draft pick on a safety in this class. However, this is a very good signing. The contract's good. He's young. And what you are getting is a guy that's been in the NFL for 4 years. He's kind of been the leader of a secondary for the past couple seasons. He's a guy that can come in. I'm not saying he's going to take control of that room the same way Tyrann Mathieu did. Neither is Craig, but he can come in. He can make calls. He's comfortable making coverage adjustments. He's seen it all. He's played from the slot and the box. He's played deep. Like he can play everywhere. He can communicate that to everybody else. So you're getting not necessarily continuity, but you're getting a guy that has the confidence and the voice to go ahead and command all of that stuff on the back end. And then, like I said, you just go back to the play. You're not that the Chiefs ever did this, but you're not. I love Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu's great. Tyrann Mathieu's role, though, was pretty specific. He needed to essentially be playing that QB spy role. He needed to be not spying, but like playing in that, whole robber, rat, whatever you want to call it. That was where he made his best bank. That's where it was, right there in the middle of the field, trying to hunt, trying to pick off a pass that's being thrown over the middle of the field. I think Reid gives you a little more versatility in terms of not just playing single high, but also playing in a deep half, being a little bit more of a playmaker on the ball in the deep zone area, and then his ability to come downhill and make some tackles, a little bit bigger body. He's more willing to throw a shoulder into some guys directly in the hole when it's not just doesn't have to, just when it's helpful. So like I just think he brings a little bit more at this age than Tyrann Mathieu did. Now that he's a better player, just brings more.
I think the part that you want to look at here is the athleticism and the obvious age difference there. Justin Reid ran a 4.440, 36 and a half inch vertical jump, 128 inch broad jump, and a 6.65 3 cone. So he's fluid, he's explosive, he's got speed. You're going to pair that with a guy, hopefully in Juan Thornhill, a year removed from an ACL injury. You could have two potentially very explosive, very dynamic safeties on the back end. That's going to help erase a lot of stuff. And from a schematic standpoint, you can roll into more single high safeties with both of those players. You can trust that both of those guys can cover the back end, that have that sort of range. You can also run split safeties, run a little bit more quarters, knowing that those guys are going to be able to run with guys coming out of the slot, be able to pick up vertical routes. It opens up a little bit more from an athleticism standpoint than maybe they have had with Dan Sorensen and Tyrann Mathieu before. All right, let's get to the conversation here, because I think that this basically, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I think that this basically eliminates Honey Badger from the equation, as some of the comments popping up on the screen here are saying. I do think that this is probably the end of the line for Tyrann Mathieu in Kansas City. I think that he's probably going to get paid plenty based on what the safety market is, and especially based on what Justin Reid just made here. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu has put together a better last 3 years than Justin Reid has, and Justin Reid is getting this. What's your overall sentiment with potentially seeing that this is the end of Tyrann Mathieu in Kansas City, Maddie?
A lot of fans, I think, have some kind of negative connotation about Tyrann Mathieu, and I think they get a little too caught up in the fact that he has a social media presence that they don't like. And like, so what? Like, so what? The guy played a huge part in helping your favorite team go win a Super Bowl. He was the leader of that defense. We can argue about Frank Clark. We can argue about it being the best players, so on and so forth. Tyrann Mathieu was absolutely exceptional in 2019 when the Chiefs went on to win the Super Bowl. He was still really darn good in 2020, despite changing roles and helping them get back to another Super Bowl. Could we sit here and pick apart his game this past season and maybe put some holes into it as he's getting older? Sure. I'm not saying we can't, but I mean, Tyrann Mathieu was one of the better signings any team made over that time period. He
Mhm.
completely reset the culture on field and off the field of a defense, and then came through with direct results because of he did it. So like, I'm sad to see Tyrann Mathieu go. I respect him as a player. I respect him as a person. I hope that he goes and gets paid and gets to play in New Orleans. It seems like he would like to get to go back and play at home if that's what he wants. Like, I'm hoping for him to get that. I do think this is the end, though. I don't think the Chiefs are going to throw out two safety contracts into the double-digit millions.
Yeah, especially not in the safety market the way that it is. It's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's unfortunate to watch that guy go. I think he meant a lot. Like, he's going to be one of the defining players for this era, and he was only here for 3 years. I mean, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to stick out, brought a lot to the team, helped reverse the fortunes of a defense that absolutely needed it. Obviously, time sucks. Like, time takes away some stuff. He's obviously got some that's left in the tank. He's going to go somewhere else. He's going to play. He's probably going to play at a very high level, but Chiefs are or hitching their wagon to the little bit younger guy here. So this is a move for the future. It's a move to get a little more athletic. It's a move to maybe, it's not probably going to cost much against the cap in the first year. So it's not something that's going to break the bank for the Chiefs. Like, this doesn't preclude them from making any other signings, and especially with the safety market the way that it is, this is about right for him. So I'm interested to see what they add. They need to add more players to the secondary, clearly, but this doesn't mean that they can't go out and still sign Charvarius Ward. It doesn't mean that they can't go out and sign, a slot corner or, spend some money on the defensive line. They've still got help that they need to add to the defense. This is just a small piece. And honestly, it's not really going to break them in the bank or break the bank going forward either.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good deal. Like, when you look at the money, it's not that it's cheap or anything like that. It's a quality safety contract, but you're not paying top of the line. It doesn't seem like the guarantees are going to completely run you out. It's like, this is good for the Chiefs right now and going forward. I was a little intrigued to see that it was only 3 years, given he is so young.
Mhm.
But we talked about it earlier, not when we were doing the lab earlier. A lot of contracts are coming in at 3 years. So it seems like a lot of agents out there are just kind of predicting after 3 years or 2 to 3 years, there's going to be a big pop in
Yeah.
the numbers they're getting. So, that's pretty normal. But yeah, I like the contract. I really like the player. I think the player is going to be really good for the Chiefs. And we talked about it on the lab earlier. Whether you keep Steve Spagnuolo or not, here's the safety. We talked about his versatility, his intelligence. Like, that was one of his biggest, strengths coming out of Stanford, was how smart he was on the field. Here's now you have a guy that can play in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme, I'm assuming, or another scheme, and you don't have to worry too much about that transition.
Yeah, I think that's the best part. You can try and pick up as much as possible. Again, I have been on record saying that Tyrann Mathieu does just infinitely more for this Chiefs team than any box score or anything like that, because he makes Steve Spagnuolo right. This probably will lead to not necessarily a rigid scheme by any means, because Steve Spagnuolo is still going to do plenty, and having a high IQ player on the back end with athleticism is also going to help with that. But I do think that maybe some of the adjustments on field won't be quite as readily available. But then again, you're hoping that the athleticism, the recovery can make up for some of that stuff and help keep a lid on top of the Chiefs defense. Obviously, they have more to do here, but this is, in my mind, a good start. This is a good day one. Justin Reid's a good player that didn't break the bank. I can't be mad at it at all. Maddie, any more closing thoughts on Justin Reid here?
No, I think we summed it up pretty good. As the week goes on and any of us have some downtime, we'll watch some Justin Reid. So you'll see, stuff being posted about how he's good and everything like that. So I got 2 questions before we get out of here,
Okay.
though.
Yeah, let's do it.
On a scale from 1 to 32, what do you rate this move for the Chiefs?
Oh, I'm going to give it a 25. I don't think he's an elite eraser on the back end by any means, but he is such a quality player that I think you're going to put him back there. He's going to make enough plays. He's going to organize the back end. You're not going to have to think about the safety position with Juan and him back there. You can obviously add a third, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that is as pressing by any means anymore.
I'm really interested. We'll talk about this more later in the week. I'm really interested to see what this does for Juan Thornhill. If I'm being
Mhm.
frank, I
Oh, no.
Juan
Did we
Thornhill gets
lose
to
him?
do. I'm back.
Yeah. You're back. You're
Uh,
back.
I don't know where
Start
I
again with
ended.
what Juan Thornhill.
Oh yeah, no. I'm most interested just to see what this does for Juan Thornhill. Not that Tyrann Mathieu wasn't super versatile, but when Tyrann Mathieu and Dan Sorensen are your other safeties, if you're going to play single high, Juan Thornhill kind of has only one place he can play. Or if you're going to be playing split safeties, Juan Thornhill's not going to. You're going to either drop Dan Sorensen down or drop Tyrann Mathieu down. I think this kind of is opening up the entire tray for Juan Thornhill to do whatever he may do. So I think Justin Reid could be big for that. But my other question I had for you, what is the biggest impact that you think you see out of this signing on the rest of the Chiefs free agents or offseason?
Honestly, I don't know that it's going to be a massive impact. I think, like I said in the lab earlier tonight, if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that. Honestly, nothing that happened here is going to change some of the things that we talked about. We focused a lot on the cornerback room and the defensive end room. But as I said, in the cornerback room, adding a nickel corner, I think, makes a lot of sense, or Charvarius Ward, or both. And if you do that, then it's over. Like, you can fairly comfortably rest on your defensive back room and just add depth. I think that that's enough from an impact player perspective. Then you can drill down on the defensive end room. I don't think that Justin Reid's cost plus Charvarius Ward's cost plus a nickel corner's cost, especially with the way that nickel corners are treated in the NFL right now. I don't think that those three together are going to lump such a sum that it's going to prevent you from going out and getting a Zadarius Smith or restructuring Frank Clark or doing whatever you need to make sure your defensive line is good. It's just a lot of athleticism. So I'm very curious to see if they continue to add athletic bodies like L'Jarius Sneed, Juan Thornhill, now Justin Reid. Are we seeing a trend, a little bit more of a trend from Steve Spagnuolo to add some athletic bodies? And do we need to start maybe considering those guys a little heavier than we have in the past?
For me, it's I left my water bottle in the other room when we do it. I got to pour one out for the dream of Lewis Cine and the first
Yeah.
round for the Chiefs. I love Justin Reid. So, like, I'm not actually upset by that. It's just this is a good safety class, and so to presumably now be out of the safety market at least in the first two picks that the Chiefs are going to have in this draft is a little sad. But I think I'll get over it when they're drafting a Chris Olave or finally drafting a corner or whatever it may be. So, like, if that's the biggest concern I have is no longer getting to potentially draft a player in the first round. Like, I think that means it was probably a pretty good signing in my book.
Listen, Maddie, we know how Brett Veach likes to go into drafts. He either likes to trade that first round pick for an established veteran, which still could be the case, or he likes to go in with absolutely no preconceived notions, no, positions of need that absolutely have to be filled. And then he goes out of his way to just take the best player available. So either way, I think that this is building more towards that. We will see as this week goes along, but the Chiefs do sign safety Justin Reid for a 3-year deal. That'll do it for this live edition of the KC Laboratory. Stay tuned as more big deals come down. We'll try and be there for you, and subscribe to the Substack. Go to KCS or gum.co/KCSN 2022, KCSN 22 to get the draft guide and 6 months of the Substack. We're going to have all this free agent stuff. We're going to have the draft. You're going to get the draft guide. Go do that. Go stock up, and we will catch you later.